Okay, 6:08, I'm gonna call the meeting to order. So with that, the consent agenda, the previous minutes, I'll entertain a motion to accept those if there's no questions or concerns on those. Okay, Devin made the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye. Okay, on policy, for the first read, looks like we have 4 there. Any issues or comments on those?
No.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to accept those.
I'll make the motion.
Rachel made the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm an aye. Second read, there's 4 of those there. Any changes to those or questions? Okay, entertain a motion to accept them.
I'll make the motion.
Sarah made a motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Okay, do we need to prioritize anything?
I do not.
All right, no visitors? Okay, perfect. And we'll go right into school spotlight. Jen.
Okay. We're going to talk tonight a little bit about Portrait of the Learner at the elementary level. Often we think of Portrait of the Learner, many people think of it as a high school thing. And in our district, we're really focusing on it as a pre-K through 12 vision. So Portrait of a Learner highlights more than just academics. It's teaching kids lifelong skills that they'll be able to have so they can become lifelong learners and be caring community members. So a lot of these skills include communication, problem solving, trustworthiness, financial literacy, just to name a few. All our every classroom in all our schools in the district have a poster with the Portrait of a Learner indicators on it, and they're hung in each classroom. So when we were talking with our elementary school people, I often think, oh, it's one more thing that we have to do. And I want to let them know that this isn't another thing. This is something we're already doing and emphasizing. So we had an in-service, and first of all, I made these little leaves, and we're going to make a tree just like that out front so that all parents can see it. But I gave the teachers a time to brainstorm what they thought we're already doing right now, without anything extra, what we're doing already now for Portrait of a Learner. So this evening, I have Amy Jarvis with me, and she's going to speak a little bit about, in perspective from the first grader, the early years, a Portrait of a Learner. And then Robert Jarvis and Leslie Underwood and her class put together a video about financial literacy in the 4th grade. So we're really excited about this initiative. And Amy, do you want to talk about?
Yeah, sure. I think to piggyback on what you said, it seems like it's more for older students and in high school. But when we really looked at what we do in the younger grades, there is a lot that we already do. For an example of a way that we are contributors in 1st grade, we always, for the past 3 years, have made Christmas cards and then walked them down to Brownway and handed them out to residents at Brownway. But also having like helper of the day, so kids are kind of in charge of things in the classroom for the day. Trustworthiness, just having lots of opportunities in the classroom for turn and talk so that kids can learn to trust each other and learn those social skills. We do math menu in 1st grade. And that's a way for kids to really be responsible for their own choices and their work. We're also spend a lot of time on information savvy, which seems like not a 1st grade skill, but it really is. What's in there? And this one is just having kids be able to distinguish between nonfiction and fiction texts, analyzing characters in fiction, and using Pebble Go, which is a library resource, to be able to do their first research on animals and then write reports on them. And also using our number corner, which is our calendar, part of our Bridges math program, and just doing mathematical talks with kids and each other. And also just being emotionally intelligent. And then at the beginning of the school year, we create our hopes and dreams. Each kid thinks about something that they hope or dream to do in 1st grade. And we do lots of self-reflecting on their own learning and also on their behavior. And do lots of goal setting for their learning in first grade as well. So we are really doing a lot of these things already.
So our next step will be next year, discuss how we're going to collect this information through a binder system, but we'll work together as a team to come up with some ideas. But I was really proud of everybody with what they came up with. So in fourth grade, you might wonder, where is financial literacy in pre-K all the way up? Well, we have an example, and so we're going to show you a video now of fourth graders explaining how they're using financial literacy in their classroom. I want to emphasize that they're using play money. So when you hear them talk about it, it's play money. Do you have the video?
Yeah. I just lost it. Hold on, sorry. Full screen going.
My classroom economy is something I began implementing 3 years ago. Essentially, it was and is a way to begin teaching students about financial literacy and financial responsibilities. As adults, we go to work and are paid. I wanted students to see coming to school and doing their work as their job. Students earn $1 each day for being at school and having a successful day. If they are out sick, do not complete work, or present a challenging day, they lose their pay for the day. Students have wallets and are paid once a week. Each month, they have a rent day to essentially pay rent for their desk and chair. The following day, they are given a shopping day in our classroom store. Students learn to budget their money, how to save, and/or how to spend their money responsibly. This has evolved over the years, with this year's students coming up with being fined, much like a speeding ticket. Students are fined for things such as forgetting to put their name on a paper or having their hood up during class. This means that they pay me $1. I have also partnered with the Community National Bank, who visit my class yearly and do a wonderful and interactive presentation with the students. My hope is that I get students to start thinking about financial habits at an early age so that they can be financially responsible as adults.
Hi, my name is Beckham.
And I'm Aaliyah.
Our classroom economy has taught me that debit cards are a way to use your money.
And that life can be expensive.
There are credit and debit cards. Debit cards are your money and credit cards are borrowed money.
To save money for the things that I want to buy.
That is important to pay for your needs first.
That is very important to save your money for rent and to buy things.
That debt means that you are out of money and it is important to save.
That the safest place to keep your money is at the bank.
That debt is when you owe money and you do not want that.
that you should save your money for a house and a car.
That there are needs and wants. Needs are food, shelter, and heat.
To do your job so that you can earn money.
That you need to save your money to pay your bills.
That it is more important to spend money on your needs and not on your wants.
To save my money is for important things.
To budget my money and not spend all of it.
To save my money so that I don't get poor.
My name's Carson. My name's Sammy.
And what are we talking about today?
Money, financial literacy.
Financial literacy. Tell me more.
You talk. So, in our classroom, we're doing this thing where our teacher, Miss Underwood, pays us, and we get little fake dollars, and we put them in these things. They're our wallets, and we can buy stuff from our classroom shop, and it determines on your behavior the 5 days. So if you're good 5 days, you get a $5 bill sometimes, or 5 ones. If you're good like any other days, you get how much money you got if you were good that day.
You get to choose if you want to spend your money or not spend your money, because if you have like $1, for example, you probably wouldn't want to spend it on anything. One, because none of the things cost $1, and second, because you don't want to go into debt.
What kinds of things do you buy?
We could buy Lego sets, like sensory game thing, whatever
like
they
glow
are.
rocks,
Yeah,
sticky
people, squishy marble thing.
marbles.
Can you buy more recess time?
No.
How do you decide how much something's worth? Who decides that?
There's little labels on the toy packets, and that determines how much money you need to pay to buy that. And some of those cost $20, like mini Lego sets and the sensory toy game.
Yeah, for example, if one of the things is $15 and I only had 12, I couldn't buy it unless I got $2 more.
We also have rent. So every month the rent is $7. So, and you have to pay that. But if you don't have $7 like me, you have to go in debt. So you have to pay her up the next time when you have money. And then there's fines, where if you leave your boots off or you have a hood,
Anything's like on the ground.
yeah, like your sweatshirt's on the ground or stuff like that. No name on paper. Stuff. Yeah,
How does it help you?
it keeps us listening and keeps us responsible.
For example, if you would have to pay her if you didn't do things right, so it kind of makes you want to do things right, so you don't have to pay her.
Does it make you think about money differently?
Yeah, because you need to save up money when you're a kid, so when you're older you have money when you have a job, so you have like a little head start.
So I want to thank Robert for all his help in making that and Mrs. Underwood's class. So it's exciting that we can take all these things from Portrait of a Learner and start them at pre-K and start embedding this. So when they get to high school, they're already going to be used to this.
Great. That's an excellent job. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you guys.
The video was Amy, I love how you gave examples about the first graders, and I think sometimes people think that the specific skills that we're working on are, you think about how hard it is for kids at the upper levels to demonstrate proficiency, yet we have examples of even our youngest students finding ways to demonstrate proficiency at their level.
Yeah,
which is pretty awesome.
it is. Yeah, agreed.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Okay, on to the financial report.
Great lead-in for this. Most of the meeting tonight will be on the FY27 budget. A few things that were informational in my report I just want to update folks on. Folks who are on the SU board have received that audit, and I'm hoping that in 2 weeks at that meeting they'll accept the audit. I still have not seen a draft for either of the two district audits, but we're anticipating that soon. The RFPs for the Snack Shack are ready. We'll announce them in a paper probably next week and then send them out to anyone we can think of who would be likely to bid on that. If you, in your conversations in the community, hear about people who might be interested in that, please have them reach out to either me or to Vern, and we'll get them a copy of the bid packet. I gave you some information on the FY25 allowable tuition bills that we're sending out. The amount we billed for the high school was significantly lower than what the state has said we're allowed to bill out. So we sent bills out for just under $500,000. There is a credit for about $50,000 for the tech center, which we overbilled for. So those two numbers are going to net. Some of that money is likely to come in this year. Most of that bill is borne by NMV, and we're going to wait to see where they're likely to end the year before we decide whether they're going to pay it this year or pay it next year. The paying town gets a choice of which year to pay it in. So we'll be updating you as the picture gets clearer at NMV, but that will be a pretty significant chunk of change coming in one of those 2 fiscal years into your budget. Any questions on that before we tee up the slideshow? Okay. A lot of these slides are ones that we've seen in earlier meetings, and we don't need to spend a lot of time on them. So go to student enrollment. This has not changed since you saw it last, and this is now up on the website, and eventually most of the things that you see here are going to be up on the website for that budget book. If we go to the next one, we are at what is hopefully your last meeting prior to warning the budget, and the dates changed obviously on that. So we moved your meeting up a week in order to set your tuition rate before NMV has their meeting, because a big chunk of their budget is sending you tuition money. There's a little graphic here which kind of shows the flow of how we develop a budget. The smaller circle to the left is kind of the feedback loop of we bring a draft, you discuss it at a warned meeting, the public can weigh in on that, you give us some guidance, we come back and change it, and we go around that inner loop until we peel off, hopefully tonight, and warn a budget, and then the public gets a chance to vote on it. Hopefully they pass it. If not, we cycle back and we do the same thing for round 2. Board goals we've discussed in the past. Go on to budget considerations. I've updated this, and based on your decisions tonight, I'll update it some more, and this will be one of the slides that we show in the budget book on the website. There have been no changes to the staffing plan since November. Overall, the budget is a reduction of about 8.5 full-time positions. You can see up there breaking them down in terms of what category they're in. Health insurance increase, we've talked about this 7.3% increase in the premium. If we look at the actual dollar amount, it's pretty significant for the ER district. A big chunk of that is the premium. A lot of that is people coming onto your insurance or going from a single to a 2-person or a 2-person to a family plan. Certainly have noticed some people coming off cash in lieu. I think we've discussed the turmoil in the healthcare world right now, and we're certainly anticipating through open enrollment people coming on. So it's important to keep that $518,000 figure in mind when we're looking at a budget where the net increase is only, I think, $275,000. So really, we could have been bringing a lower budget to your voters had it not been for health insurance. Other factors which are significant but maybe of lesser magnitude, we are anticipating 9 more tuition high school students, so that's 9 more tuition bills coming in and helping to reduce your tax rate. Billing for tech center students is a little different, but we're going to be billing for more tech center students next year as well. The amount you're paying to the supervisory union for the assessment is down. That's both because the amount the SU is assessing is down, but also because your share of the assessment is down a little bit because of smaller growth here compared to the NMV side. We have again a relatively large fund balance. We're anticipating it's 672,000. The auditors haven't finalized that yet, but it's not going to change much. And we'll discuss later on in the meeting what we want to do with that amount. And then we've discussed the cuts to federal funding in earlier meetings, so I won't spend any time on that. But before we go on, are there any kind of questions on the drivers?
No.
I'll really recap, but
The only thing, the teachers, those aren't filled positions, right? The teacher cuts, so just want to make sure everybody understands that.
Correct. Those are all positions that we've decided either haven't been able to fill or this year have decided not to fill. So you'll have trouble seeing this budget overview on the screen, but it is in the information that I emailed. So starting with the section in red, this is the spending plan for the district. The current draft that I'm seeing is $25,465,229. Again, most of that's driven by staffing. The changes that we've seen over the last week have really been in terms of dialing in tuition, primarily as the state is giving us the tech center numbers, and we're starting to get from other districts what their tuition rates would be. On the revenue side, the big mover is how much we're going to be billing out for tuition. So I change the budget. I look at what I think your tuition rates are going to be. I look at what I think you're going to be able to bill out to other districts, and that number keeps tweaking, but that's pretty close to final as well. And so we get into that blue section at the bottom. We look at the expenditure plan, which is the number that you're going to put forward to the voters, the anticipated revenue, which is what we think we're going to get in terms of that tuition money and state grants, and then also the use of the prior year fund balance. So you have 672,000 roughly, which you can either give back to the voters entirely or you can ask them to do something with it. Historically, we've asked them to take half of it and put it into capital reserves, and this budget is showing that. Last year, because of the concerns around the tax rates and the change in the CLA and how that was going to land with voters, instead of asking to put half in, we asked to put a quarter in, and that put 3/4 into your budget. And so we can have discussions around what the right number is. We've had discussions with both boards and the SU board about, with the uncertainty of merger, coming up, there is some concern about going into those mergers with a large capital reserve fund. There is also concern about putting all the money into buying down the tax rate because that swings the tax rate in future years, and there's certainly a good chance that the legislature will back away and we'll be doing quote unquote normal budgeting over the next few years. So if, as we're showing here, if you put half of it into a capital reserve fund and the voters approve that, with the ADM count, the student count that we know is now final, with the yield, which is far from final but projected, the district-wide tax rate would actually be down about half a penny. We then apply that to the CLA. CLAs are still screaming upward throughout the state. These numbers are now, I think, as close as they'll be to final for CLA. We would be proposing a post-CLA tax increase in Enosburg of 7.3 cents and a post-CLA tax increase in Richford of just over 4 cents. The numbers we had in December were pretty radically different. I think they were up 14 cents in Enosburg, and they were actually down a hair in Richford. So the numbers have come in a little bit closer one town to the other, but those are still tax increases, and that's what people will look at.
I just want to name though, because I think that there's still misunderstanding about tax rate increases when we have the governor talks about impacts on the education fund and education spending. He talks in general terms about averages, and I think when our community hears that, they make assumptions about what percentage our property taxes are going up. And our spending is very different than other districts around the state. So what you just said, Morgan, would be just over 5% in Enosburg and around 4% in Richford.
I think that is right.
You wrote it on the note that I'm looking at, so
And that's probably pretty correct.
4.23 in Richford.
Trying to find my notes.
Definitely didn't do that math myself.
It's on there.
And I would say, we'll talk about the governor's proposal a little bit later. But yeah, it's 5.1% increase Enosburg, 4.2% increase in Richford. Again, the district-wide tax rate is a decrease, and your spending, the amount of money that you're asking the voters to approve, is only up 1%. And we'll look in the history in future slides. So if you go to the next one, we'll spend no time on this. This is just the process by how we calculate tax rates. We'll cover that in another slide again. You can go to the next one. I believe I went over the math on this last meeting. These numbers are now final, and I just want to call out again, in case there are people who are watching this at home or watching this on YouTube. We're starting with a student count of 854 and change kids. So that's how many kids are actually in the building. We weight kids differently based on relative need. And so when we end up computing your tax rate, you're actually getting to count over 1,600 kids, or over twice as many. And just want to call out the biggest category where we are picking up kids is that economically disadvantaged number. And that's really what's almost doubling the number of kids that we can count. The more kids you can count, the lower your tax rate. You can go to the next one, I think. Spending per pupil, we've covered this in the past. I would point out that that bottom line is where Enosburg-Richford is for this current year. If everybody stays the same next year, except for you, you would be moving up only one pole position with the budget that we've got in the warning. And we know everybody's not going to stay the same. People are going to move up. So my best guess is with the budget that's in front of you, we're actually going to lose ground in terms of our peers across the state. This is a slide that you've seen in the past. It just kind of charts the tax rate increase. I don't know if we showed this to you last month, but certainly that increase for taxpayers in Enosburg is a lot gentler now with that change in the CLA. And unfortunately, Richford's is going from a drop to an increase. I say unfortunately, you know, the rub with the CLA is that a falling CLA is good, and then it means that your property is worth more. It's bad when you compute your tax rate, and so it's it cuts both ways. This is a new slide, and spend a little bit of time on this. This is attempting to show what is the makeup of the tax increase for each town and what those drivers are. And so the bar for both towns in blue is that student count. We have more students this year that we get to count, so that's actually driving down the tax rate, and that's why those bars in black are below that $0 line. The yield, which is eventually going to be set by the legislature, came in higher with the tax commissioner's proposal than I think most of us expected. That is also helping drive down the tax rate. The green is that change in ed spending, or what you're proposing for your budget, minus what we're expecting for revenue, and you'll see that drives the tax rate up. And if you look for both towns, if you kind of look at the green above the line and the black and red below the line, both Enosburg and Richford, those are kind of netting out to zero, and that's really why we're seeing that slight decrease on the district-wide tax rate. And then in blue, you're seeing the impact of the CLA. Enosburg's CLA has moved a lot more in the past year than Richford's, and that's why that is pushing up above the line, more so than in Richford's case. And you'll see the gray shading kind of shows where the little over 7 cent increase lands for Enosburg and the 4 cent increase lands for Richford. And so I'll take feedback from folks here if they think this is useful or not. I'm going to share it with folks in our office as well. And if more people think it's less confusing than more confusing, we'll probably put it up on the website to try to help explain to drivers.
I like it a lot, yeah.
Again, the only section that we control is the green, but it's important to note that those sections that are out of our control, the CLA, and certainly the yield have a much larger impact.
So I think that this is trying to communicate about how Vermont's education funding system works feels sometimes like it is a little bit impossible because it's so complex. And so I asked Morgan to look at the drivers and think about what portion of our tax increase is being driven by what, so that people could start to understand there's not this direct correlation between exactly what we spend in our school and what your tax rate is going to be. There are other factors that weigh in too. So I think it's when you first look at this, sometimes it's like, what, like I kind of got that vibe over here a little bit. I wonder if you could just say it again, what you're trying to reflect with the below the zero and then above the zero. Just say it one more time.
And so there are 4 things that impact your change in your tax rate from year to year, and they are represented by different colors on this chart. This year, education spending puts upward pressure, increases your tax rate. The CLA for both towns currently pushing up your tax rate. For us this year, the student count, because we're able to count more students primarily because of that factor we have for poverty, is pushing down your tax rate. And the yield, which is ultimately set by the legislature, is also pushing down the tax rate. And so before we, is that what you wanted?
Does that make more sense on this side?
Well, I understand education finance, but I'm not sure I understand that. To me, that doesn't illustrate it, but to somebody else it might.
I think what he's trying to show there is that for us this year, when you got your first look at the budget, the students had a really negative impact because it showed that we were losing students. So that was driving it in those first versions of the budget way up. In the work we did with the fall census data with Dominic, we were able to find those students in there and keep making corrections until we got it right. So now we have that black just is reflecting. That's a good thing for us. We found more students. It's positively benefiting that tax rate. The same thing for the yield. It's positively benefiting us this year, whereas in years past, the yield has, how it swings up or down has a negative impact on us. And so when you look at overall change, it's if you take Enosburg, for example, it's 7 cents, 7.32 cents. And that's because it would be way more than that if we didn't have the benefit of the students and the positive benefit of the yield. And so it's showing of those 7 cents, that proportion of the blue is because of the change in the property values in the community. And the green is the only part that we're controlling on ed spending. I mean, maybe would a call out bubble pointing to the green reflecting that's the only factor that we have control over help?
Or arrows. Embedded in there, showing the change. Yeah, I am happy to take any suggestions, and this is in the slide deck that I emailed to you yesterday. So happy to take suggestions on how to make this clearer. And the NMV board has not seen it yet. They'll see it tomorrow night, and so they may also have some suggestions.
Think on it and give us the feedback. I can see Will's turning over here.
What's the gray? What's the light gray?
The light gray shows where the actual tax rate has landed, the change. So Enosburg has gone up. The light gray, that outer box, shows where the final tax rate has landed. So that's the 7.3 cents on the Enosburg side, and then the 4 cents on the Richford side.
What I can appreciate about this is I feel like last year a lot of the budget talk was this idea, at least from what I've heard from the community in Richford, of it's Enosburg that's driving up our tax rate, and having to hear that. I like the side by side. It's taking me a minute to figure it out, but it's nice to see it next to each other and understanding why. It's more visually appealing, if that makes sense, to see it side by side.
It makes more sense
Yes.
that way, yes.
Okay, and yeah, please send thoughts my way if you have other ones. Before we leave this slide, I just want to remind folks that the yield number that we're using is the one that comes out on December 1st from the tax commissioner. We know that's not going to be the final yield number. And you probably saw that Governor Scott proposed putting $75 million of one-time money into the ed fund in order to buy down tax rates. Obviously, he will want something for that, and that hasn't been defined yet. That may be defined tomorrow at the state of the state. But that 75 million is roughly a change of about 5 cents. So that red box below for both sides is going to almost double, and those gray lines would drop to where Richford probably would go back to a slight decrease, and Enosburg would go to about a 2 cent increase. There are a lot of other factors that go into the yield and a lot of other things that can change, but that is a potential big mover, and unfortunately we don't have the benefit of using that or showing that when we put a number in front of your voters.
We saw the impact of that a couple of years ago. And it was a dramatic swing when we'd made no change, but it just showed how that yield reflects all the other statewide education spending decisions and how dramatically that can swing our tax rate. So the worry about Enosburg, it's really, you have to think of it broader than that.
And I just remember trying to explain that last year, and it was like, even it took me sometimes, I was like, I understand it when Morgan explains it to me, but then I try to say it and I'm like, that doesn't sound the same. So seeing this is, I think, helpful as long as people can really understand it.
Yeah. It's another attempt.
Yeah. Much appreciated.
Okay. This slide we used last year. This is attempting to put the FY27 budget into some tangible numbers that people can look at. There are some calculators on the tax department's website that people can use for their own situation. But on this one, basically on the left side, is what people can expect to pay in either town if their assessed value is $150,000 and they have those income levels running down the left side. So you'll see for the neediest or the most vulnerable taxpayers, those low incomes, they actually may see a decrease with this budget, even without what we've talked about with the yield. And that's because of the income sensitivity portion and how that changes from year to year. On the right side, it shows what people can expect to pay if they're paying solely on the value of their property. And the cutoff point this year is a household income of $115,400. So in our communities, there's going to be a pretty high percentage of people that are paying based on their income rather than straight property value. We've covered capital reserve funds in the past. This is there primarily because we do want to have a discussion about what we want to do with the FY25 fund balance. The next slide shows the warning, and I sent this separately to you as well. The sections in yellow are kind of the decision points that we have tonight in order to warn this. And again, I hope we'll be able to work through those and finalize all of those this evening. This slide is one that you've seen in the past. It just shows the proposed budget, at least in this version. Again, on that top line, you can see the budget change. So the spending plan change is only a 1% increase over last year. And you compare that to 6%, 10%, 6% over the last few years. And then it's the second lowest ever as a unified district. We're slightly lower in 2023. And then on the right side of that, you can see the change in per pupil spending. Again, this would be the lowest change in per pupil spending because we saw that benefit of additional kids. So to the extent people understand what's going on, it's actually a great budget to try to sell. But it's going to be a hard environment as it has been the last few years with this governor. And then voting information will be up on the website, and it will be prominent in all of our shows that we take to the different schools over the next couple of weeks. Next couple of months, next several weeks. So Courtney, if you'll go back to slide number 13. This kind of calls out the decision points we have. So we've kicked this budget around. The latest version is ending at 25,465,229. If you are not comfortable with that number, I will need some guidance on how to change that. That is certainly the only way to change the spending plan, but it's not the only way to impact the tax rate. That decision will be, what do we want to do with the fund balance? Do we want to ask for permission to put half of it away? Do we want to ask for permission to put a quarter of it away?
So I'd say half, especially with the unknowns of the governor, bring down that rate. Richford, biggest bowl, that $1, we're just throwing money away. Any feelings on that? Anybody else?
And again, this is something that your voters have to approve. So if they pass your budget and they vote down this capital reserve article, they will basically be taking the 3-cent decrease that moving the full amount would be, or not moving any of it would be giving them. We'll cover this later, but I will just sort of give you a heads up that in terms of what this budget will mean for your tuition rates, we would ask to set an elementary school tuition rate, which nobody pays, at $19,400, which is a little bit of a decrease from $21,000 last year. High school tuition rate at $23,200. That would be a decrease from $24,000, which is what we announced for this year. And then a tech center tuition rate of $14,000, a decrease from $16,000 for this year. And all of those decreases are really due to anticipated enrollment going up.
Any discussion on that? Akua? Any discussion on the tax rates?
And just something that you had said that I want to call out around that dollar floor. The dollar floor is actually only set at the district level, so you're a long ways from it. Whatever you decide to do with the capital reserve fund isn't going to get you there. That was one of the reasons they kind of monkeyed with how they calculated the CLA, I suspect last year, is that they knew some of us were bumping up against it, and they wanted to give us the opportunity to cut our budgets further.
Hey, I do have one question, Morgan. You talked a little bit earlier about the capital reserve fund and sort of long-term concerns around that, and you know that had been discussed in the past. Can you just give a high level of what those concerns might be and where we are sitting in relationship to those concerns? You know, in terms of, do we have more than we would be comfortable with as things develop in the state, or you know what that looks like from our perspective?
Sure. And so this, I think, is us being conservative and defensive. But if we go back to 2017, 2018, when we were going through the last merger, all of our individual districts, or most of our individual town districts, had capital reserve funds, which the voters establish and are established specific to capital needs at a building. When we merged districts, those capital reserves funds came to the larger district, but we kept them tied to those buildings. So if Enosburg had capital reserve funds and there was an issue with an Enosburg building that was kind of over and above what we cover in a normal budget year, we would take that out of the Enosburg Capital Reserve Fund, not the Richford Capital Reserve Fund, and we would deplete the Enosburg Capital Reserve Fund before we depleted the district-wide one. My assumption, my hope is that if we find ourselves 3 years from now in a Franklin County district, the method that gets us there would acknowledge that the capital reserve funds that Enosburg-Richford is bringing by the voters of this district were tied to the 5 buildings that we control. We don't have that guarantee yet because this is going to be a change by the legislature, and the legislature can do what they want. The legislature can really do what they want now, and they could pass a law that says no district gets to keep capital reserve funds any longer, and that they're going to automatically go back to buying down the tax rate or back to the ed fund. So
And also, can I add a layer to that, which connects to the video that you showed today about the financial literacy? Not all districts have invested in capital reserve funds. So that's another thing that entering another merger down the road, there's just a wonder about what's the process for how those funds will be expended. So do we want to keep building in a capital reserve? And the answer may be yes for right now, because there's still a lot of uncertainty.
Right. And so a way to play that out is if we roll back, and I'll use the other side as an example. So in that first merger that was passed by the voters, Bakersfield and Berkshire town districts merged. They both had capital reserves funds, but you can imagine a scenario where maybe Berkshire had $2 million in capital reserves and Bakersfield had none, and now they were a single district. We're using that $2 million to cover the needs at Berkshire, but we're also building this district-wide capital reserve fund that for several years only Bakersfield is tapping. So you can say, because there was an inequity with the amount of money that they brought in, that really the taxpayers of Berkshire, because they were good financial stewards and were socking money away to take care of future capital needs, are kind of floating their new partners. And so that's what the concern is that you don't want to be joining with 4 other districts and being the only district bringing money in.
What's our balance right now? 68, 67?
596.
There's 67 in the property reserve, property acquisition fund. So we have 2 funds actually in this district. One is just over 600,000, and that's for capital needs. And then Enosburg Town District brought a property acquisition fund that's got 67,000 in it, and that was tied specifically for buying land or buying buildings, not for maintaining buildings. Now, this is all something that next year, if merger is on the horizon and if the legislature doesn't say we're not going to allow anybody to change anything, which they also could do, we could go and say, ask the voters for permission to take that property reserve fund and plug it back into the general fund, or to reduce the capital reserve fund by X dollars. Certainly not recommending that, but that's something that we're watching and everybody in the state is paying attention to.
Got it. Thank you, Morgan. Yeah, you just answered my next question. So there is a slight potential, right, that depending on how things move forward, that those funds could leave the community. However, we're hopeful that if legislation changes, that there might be an opportunity for us to make a decision prior to the merger to utilize them within the community, it sounds like.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You would also have the option, thinking ahead to next year, there will be a big ticket with doing the remaining asbestos remediation in the building we're in now. We have historically tried to use general fund money for that when we can, and then if we can't tap capital reserves, we could certainly on June 29th decide that we're going to use capital reserves for that, and so bleed them down that way. So I would say, we're not without options, but it is a concern that we're paying attention to, and it's a reason why you might not want to put as much as half away. In a normal year, we would say half because we want the money to fund projects in these schools, and we want to kind of help with the roller coaster ride of the tax rates for taxpayers. And again, ultimately, it's up to your voters to decide whether to put that in or not. You could go to the warning, 26. And so at the moment, the draft in front of you, the article that your voters would see is, shall the voters of the district approve the school board to expend $25,465,229, which is the amount the school board has determined to be necessary for the ensuing fiscal year. The district estimates that this proposed budget, if approved, will result in per pupil spending of $11,430, which is 2.6% higher than per pupil education spending for the current year. Again, the $25,465 is what you spend. That $11,430, if nobody else moves, will move you from 111th to 110th or something like that. And a 2.6% increase in per pupil education spending, which I suspect is going to be much lower than many of your peers based on what I'm hearing from them. And then Article 5 would be looking for permission to deposit 1/2 of the surplus funds from 2025 into the capital reserve fund.
Need to vote on that?
If you're ready to warn a budget, I've got some motions to read. The last piece that we'll want to finalize, and we can do that after the motions if you want, is when the official information hearing will be. We're going to have several, but we need to have one within 10 days. And we've got a proposal, unless something's changed today, for February 25th at 6:30 p.m. at Richford Junior Senior High School.
Okay, any more discussion on that? Akua? Have any more concerns on that?
All good with me. Thank you.
Okay, so let me tee up those motions for you. The first one is, I can email this quickly. A motion to warn an FY27 Enosburg-Richford Unified Union School District budget of $25,465,229.
Do you have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Deb made a motion. Akua?
Aye.
Rachel?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
I'm an aye.
The next motion would be a motion to announce an FY27 elementary tuition rate of $19,400.
A motion.
I'll make the motion.
Rachel made a motion. Devin? Akua?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
I'm an aye.
Next would be a motion to announce an FY27 secondary tuition rate of $23,200.
Have a motion?
Okay.
Devin made a motion. Rachel?
Aye.
Akua?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
I'm an aye.
Fourth, motion to announce an FY27 vocational tuition rate of $14,000.
Have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Akua made a motion. Rachel?
Aye.
Devin?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
I'm an aye.
And then a motion to approve and direct the chair to sign the Enosburg-Richford Unified Union School District 2026 annual meeting warning. And the only last piece of that will be to finalize the informational meeting, but we can do that motion now.
Have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Sarah made a motion. Akua?
Aye.
Rachel?
Aye.
Devin?
Aye.
I'm an aye.
And that is all I have for you tonight.
Morgan, I had one suggestion thinking about my former district and Mike Conchesi, my former business manager, and he did a really good job displaying to the community. One of the things that he showed was kind of the percentages and statistics around who pays the actual tax rate. We live in a community that's probably the highest percentage is not paying the actual tax rate. And so it was kind of a eye-opener for the community to see that only 30% of the community is actually paying the tax rate. And so those are the numbers that we're showing on all these graphics and stuff like that. But there's a percentage of people that pay the hybrid and, according to income sensitivity, but I guarantee the bulk of our communities are probably not even coming close to paying the tax rate. And so I think displaying that and showing people that, and then kind of leading that to show the money we collect in Enosburg and Richford is only a fraction of the money that, the rest of the money's coming from the state. We're getting funded by other communities to actually pay.
He is so
So
good.
I am happy to poach. I'm happy to poach.
You created
from
it while I was talking. That is
He is so
amazing.
fast.
This is one way we've done it, and I'll reach out to Mike and see if he's got a different graphic. But on this one, you can see in the sort of dark maroon, that is how much of our budget is raised from homestead taxpayers in Enosburg. And then the slightly lighter one is homestead taxpayers in Richford. So that's 13% of the money we spend is raised in our district from homestead. And then another 13% is raised by homestead taxpayers somewhere else. A little bit larger numbers, but kind of similar makeup in dark blue and medium blue for second homeowners, business owners. And then that section in green is all the other stuff that we spend, the Medicaid, lottery, rooms and meals tax. So, I'll look at what Mike's used as well, and we'll get that into the public presentations.
Yeah, somehow he was able to get the number of people who paid the actual tax rate compared to the percentage of people who paid the hybrid, income sensitivity amount compared to the people who just paid that base chunk based on their property value.
You do it in a percentage.
He did it in a percentage. It was
It'd be interesting.
Yeah, the community really responded to that. So
All right.
Good suggestion.
Responding positively.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good to check.
The more they understand around that, like all you're seeing is tax rate increase, then you're feeling like it's affecting you, but really it's in a high percentage, it's not.
And Morgan does that in the with the graphic or the graphs where he says if you have income of this amount and your house is worth this amount, your tax rate's actually going down.
Yeah.
But people have to read it.
Right.
Or come to an information.
Or come to an
Yeah.
information.
Yes.
There's a lot of people in our community that cannot read that graph.
But
A lot.
the graph that you know which one I mean, where he
John
actually
Redding
says if your
goes back to
house value
Yeah,
is
the
worth
4
this amount of
tables that
money,
he had
and
up on
yeah.
the thing,
Yeah, that was easier.
Mm-hmm.
That one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people liked that last year.
Yeah.
And it's easier when you have people in front of you because you can
Yeah.
point, if you're here, this is the box you look at.
Applies
But-
to you, because that's what they're
And
thinking.
that was the graphic that he used with the information at the bottom about what percentage of the community was actually
Right.
paying, like, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like, good job.
Anything else, Morgan?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Greg?
When Courtney's ready.
He put his hand out. What am I supposed to do?
I really hope that was recorded and on camera.
I'm not on camera.
Oh.
I'm sitting in a good spot.
No,
today.
I see you in the corner.
Yeah,
You're
I
there.
got that.
Oh,
So I'll
I'm-
start with personnel. It is all informational. So you've got some new hires for support staff and no resignations this month. And we have some open positions that I will name. I always try to name those. The SU grant funded literacy interventionist at Enosburg Middle School. There's a middle school baseball coach there. Enosburg High School guidance director, JV baseball coach, paraeducator, varsity boys soccer, and varsity girls soccer. Richford Junior Senior High School paraeducator. I think. There's a paraeducator that is.
Yeah, we're trying to hire a full-time sub. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yes. Okay. So nothing there. Any questions on that? So, Corey, are you going to put the slideshow up?
It should have been up.
Okay. So
Sorry.
this is the time of the year where we have to think about notifying the union about whether or not there's a potential for us to contemplate a reduction in force, which means potential cuts to staffing. That's never something that we want to do, and we have almost never, I don't know that we've almost never had to do that since I've been superintendent. But I feel like we're in the ocean and the sand is shifting under our feet, and it has felt destabilizing and uncertain, especially around federal funding, which, because we serve such a high poverty community, we rely on our federal funding, and we pay for a lot of our employees through our federal funding. We've made some shifts, we've moved some of those into our local budgets, but it still causes uncertainty with how we're going to fund things. So we're required to notify the union that we may contemplate it. It doesn't mean we're going to make any cuts. But if we don't notify them, then we won't be able to reduce the workforce if we lose funding. So there's uncertainty at the federal level, but also I would say we're coming in with a pretty good budget comparatively. It's nowhere near what the state average projections are, and I think that as other budgets get warned, we'll see that we're pretty low compared to others again as well. But it doesn't mean that we won't have a hard time passing our budget. So there's uncertainty at the state level, there's uncertainty at the federal level. So my recommendation is that you make a motion to direct me to notify the union that the board reserves the right to contemplate a reduction in force if it's necessary.
Any questions on that? No. Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Sarah made a motion. Apua?
Aye.
Rachel?
Aye.
Devin?
Aye.
Okay, principals, finish your test this month. Who would like to go first?
Nobody can see yet, so hold on.
I fail every month. Closer.
Uh-oh, who's in the middle?
Oh, must be us.
I'm on the lower left. That's our middle school pancake breakfast right before the holiday break.
We're refreshing.
Oh, I think we're at the top.
You are at the top this month.
Good job.
Nailed it.
Yes.
Okay, hold on, it's back up. I am kicking butt. Okay.
we're on the upper right. Well, actually, it could be on the lower one must be Nate.
The lower
Must be
one's
Cole
Nate.
Hollow.
Yeah,
Okay, because
that's-
those are my kids too. On the upper right, we do a holiday competition on the last afternoon where community time, we call them advisories in middle school, community times, and we call them advisories at the high school. We do a friendly competition where you either have to do a physical challenge or sing a song, sing a carol, or do, so they did pin the nose on the reindeer, and they, so it was a competition to see which advisory could win, and so it was just a fun afternoon.
We are upper left, and that is a paraeducator who is working with our upper grade students, our 4th and 5th grade students. And our 5th grade students were doing a play as part of their literacy unit. And Sarah is, our para is a writer on her own time. And she helped with the students put together this, wrote a play, and the students performed it. They were pretty engaged.
And we are in the middle, and that is our after-school program. We have a paint club, and one of our teachers volunteers to work with the kids and share her creativity with them. So.
Do you want me to say Cold Hollow or?
Yeah.
The bottom right is technically Cold Hollow. It was part of their annual wild game dinner that they had every year, and they do it right before break.
Great. Lots of fun things happening in our schools. Thank you, Courtney. Thank you, principals. Gold stars all the way around today. Everybody recognized their kids. Good job. Activities.
I'm sitting really close today. So
to see, I know sometimes it's challenging. So also in January every year, we need to set the Act 129 public high school choice limits. We do this every year. I think all board members have gone through this before, so what we're really trying to do, you have in your board packet like what your parameters are around setting the limits. I also put in the packet that you, last year, the limits you set was 20 students coming in and a limit of 7 students out to each school annually. So it is, you've done that for the last couple of years, it's within your parameters to set it that way. I don't know if principals have any. We dug into the data last year that we did not have a really high number of kids leaving under 129 or coming under 129. So do you have any recommendations for changes? So we need a motion to do the number in and the number out.
Okay, I entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Rachel made a motion. Akua?
Aye.
Devin?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
I'm an aye.
Thank you. So this is that time of the year where our schedules get really packed because we're going to be doing the road show where we're bringing budget information tours around to every one of our school communities. And the principals have done a really great job of trying to come up with an event or something that's happening in their school already and weave it in. And we had the best turnout, best participation last year that we've ever had in these budget informational meetings. So when we strategized this, we were using some of the information we learned from last year, but we also were looking at our strategy around our annual school report. So we have really positive feedback on the school report last year. It'll be in a similar format this year. And we have pushed these back, and we pushed our annual report due date up. It's actually this Friday, but we won't talk about that in front of Courtney because she's working really, really hard on it. So we think we'll have our annual reports, or at least copies of our annual reports for those first nights at the end of January. So you can see we've got for your board, January 27th. Is Enosburg Middle High School. There's an event that I don't know what the event is, a 5 and budget at 6. I don't know if that's decided upon yet, Anthony.
Not yet.
Okay, no worries.
Trying to finalize.
No pressure. February 4th will be at Cold Hollow at 5 for budget, and then he has an event at 6. Enosburg Elementary on February 5th. There'll be a community dinner at 5. put on by the 5th grade students in a 6 o'clock budget presentation. We will be at Richford High School on hold on. I just messed that up. Richford Elementary School on February 19th at 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock budget. Did I miss a school?
Me, January 28th.
I missed it because it's a double. And it's highlighted in yellow, so why wouldn't I have noticed that, right? So you have 2 that last week of January. So that one is Morgan and I are gonna split up for that night, so we will start together in Richford, and then one of us will leave to go to Montgomery, and then we'll try to do 2 in one night. I think we only have 1 double this year, Courtney.
Yes, and Cold Hollow is also at 5 o'clock instead of 6 o'clock. The budget instead of 6 like the others.
Okay.
Because we have an NMV meeting that we have to run to.
Good call. So my ask to the board is, can you help us to sell this budget information? And what I'd like to do is have you look at your calendars, either right now or right at the end of the meeting, and give it to Courtney which ones you can attend, because I think that for our community, it's really impactful when board members are there to be able to answer questions or even just show support of the budget.
I can do both at Enosburg, Courtney, the elementary and the high school.
Okay. And the one at Richford High School on the 25th is just a budget informational meeting, so that's the official one. So there won't be a school event on that one.
That's February 25th.
Yeah, that's the official one that's going.
So we definitely need board members there.
Yeah, but there won't be a school event that day.
And we'll likely
over?
not
Is
have
that
the
vacation?
same turnout.
Yeah,
That's
it is.
vacation, yeah. Kelly was so close to being part of the 10 days, but she's 12 days. So we couldn't count that as our official
It
one.
unfortunately always falls in that February
Yeah, I remember
vacation.
that last year.
Yeah.
I might be able to.
Okay.
Yeah, you can put me down as a maybe right now.
Okay.
And then maybe if others could look at their calendar and get it to Courtney, we wanna make sure that we've got coverage for all of those nights.
What? Sorry, one more time. Which week is the vacation week?
The 23rd, so the 25th is during vacation of February.
Just
Got it. So Courtney, you can put me down for the ones on the week of the 3rd, and so, for sure Cold Hollow and Enosburg, and potentially Berkshire, and then also for the 19th at Richford Elementary.
Berkshire is NMV Akua. I mean, you're more than welcome to go.
Right, that's why I kind of said it and then pulled back in the right. So yeah, just Cold Hollow, Enosburg, and Richford.
Okay.
So
And then on the 17th, oh, that's just the regular meeting, okay.
The 17th is the regular meeting for, like, right now.
And the 25th, you can put me down for the 25th as well.
Perfect.
So am I saying Richard Senior High School on January 28th too?
Yes.
Correct. That's the one that has a school event attached to it.
I can do that one.
Okay.
On January 28th.
Okay.
Devin, you said you can too?
Yes.
Perfect. And we're also going to have food at all of these events, that's correct? That is part of it, so we're gonna feed people.
The only
Hopefully it's not all pizza this year, because when you have to go to all of these, that's a lot of pizza in a row.
There must be side salads.
Yeah.
It was so much pizza. The only one I don't have anybody for is Richford Elementary School at the moment.
What day is that?
That's February 19th.
Akua said she would, no. Did she just say she was going to say?
She said the 25th.
Yes, I can do the 19th.
Oh, okay, sorry. I thought you just said.
I can't do the 25th, right, because that's the holiday week.
Okay, so Richford Elementary School. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's 28th, I can't see the time, but.
The time for
These
the
are all
28th
six
is
except one of them.
5.
Oh,
Five.
The
just
budget
one.
will
What
start
was
at
that
5.
5?
So, okay, so
28th
Cold
January.
Hollow will start at 5 for the budget part because we have an NMB regular meeting that night. Richford High School on January 28th, the budget part has to start at 5 so we can make it to Montgomery.
Right.
After
We're doing a
their
dinner, a
event.
community dinner and a budget talk at 5.
Okay.
And then the other 3, the budget part starts at 6 o'clock. Well, as close to 6 as possible.
We'll make sure you have all the details.
Pretty easy to
Okay.
remember.
I know it's little in this, but we'll make sure you have. Can you do calendar invites for them?
Yeah, I can. You also do have all of you do have this Google document
Yeah.
readily available. And if things change, I've been updating. So that highlighted one was just to tell Northwest Access that I moved that date. That's the only reason why it's highlighted.
So what might be helpful is to just use these calendars and put the people who are going to be at those meetings right on this calendar. So that we can all see who's covering.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Right in that square.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Especially for myself, because sometimes
Courtney, do you have,
I'm gonna do it.
So
for us
the
do you have
last
at
thing just
5?
about the budget
I
informational
have
meetings is
the event.
Morgan and I are here to listen. If there are things that you would like to see added,
Or 6.
recommendations about things that you don't want in this year's,
The budget at 5.
what feedback do you have about, we're starting with what we had last year
Budget at 5.
and then looking forward from there, but we're not completely shaped
Right now it's at 6.
because we're not done yet.
And you want us to start with highlights from our school? Like we did last year?
Either
or-
start or, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kind of like a state of the school. You stumped me for a second because I started to go to your event, but no, you were talking about the beginning of the budget.
Yeah.
So you're happy with last year's? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then the last thing I have is just an update on Act 73 school district consolidation update. So Sarah, Morgan, and myself attended a meeting along with a couple of board members from the NMV district in St. Albans at can never remember Hardack. There's a building in Hardack. So it was all of the Franklin County board members, all of the Franklin County legislators, all of the Franklin County superintendents, and I think it was all of the business managers as well that attended the session. And it was really an opportunity for the legislators to hear from different boards about the impact of Act 73 and the work that we have ahead. So I don't know, Sarah, if you want to say anything about that night, or Morgan, any impressions that you want to share?
Well, it was interesting for sure.
Yeah.
It was just interesting to see the difference between Maple Run and us, and then MVU, and yeah, it was yeah, I think everybody is kind of in the same boat, but not really in the same boat, and I think everybody's really concerned about how price per pupil is here, and we're here, and how is this gonna be in the middle, and who's gonna pay for it, and I think a lot of it is with trying to find ways of being equal, no matter where you live. I really liked how, Maple Run was kind of advocating that, and yeah, I hope that legislators are very good, other than I get the impression that they are kind of don't know what to do either.
Right.
And after all this stuff, there still isn't a solution. And they definitely seem to be taking what we were talking about, and making note of it, so it'd be interesting to see how this all goes with your session. Right.
Do you have anything you want to add?
Are they planning on doing this again after conversation at the legislative level, like later on, or?
With the Franklin County?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, there are several legislative breakfasts that will happen throughout the legislative session, so we always have an opportunity to go participate in that way. I don't know if there'll be another formal opportunity this way. One thing that I heard in common was there seemed to be some common resistance to larger mergers in the room, and more people talking about the foundation formula favorably than the others. I think that it was interesting because we are all in different places. Most are under the state average, but not all. And so as a county, we're not exactly the same, but
No, we're very different.
with some of
Yeah.
them, we're similar, more similar to some of the other ones. So it was.
Yeah, one of the discussions that I thought was interesting was there seemed to be at least some legislators who were already pointing to we may not get any mergers and we should be looking at pulling the funding formula out and pushing forward with that, which would be fine for those of us at the bottom of the spending graph, and it would be really difficult for those who are not up there because they don't have the tools to start finding savings quickly enough with that new funding formula. So
It'll be, it's like I think Morgan said earlier, it's like the new Netflix, they're back in session today, they started, and so it's dynamic, and every day there are different meetings that happen. I haven't watched any of today's yet, obviously, but I do know education is at the center, the forefront of most of what they're trying to contend with, so.
Is there a timeline for a decision?
So in theory, we already have a decision through Act 73, but what is a barrier right now is the task force didn't produce maps. And that was what they expected to come out of the task force. So now I think that my perception is the legislature is a little bit on their heels because they don't know what to do with that necessarily because they expected to have maps to react to. So now I suspect there are small groups probably all over the State House trying to produce maps to then put into committee for discussion. So they're gonna have to figure that piece out. Everything that passed in Act 73 had like different gates. Like in order for it all to come together on July 1, 2028, this piece had to be done by this date and this piece had to come together. And if any of those things can't come together, then it doesn't move forward. So it could look the way it does right now at the end of this legislative session, or they could pass a new law. They could revise this and update this. It's so dynamic. I really have no idea how this is gonna turn out. So there is some interest, I think, from other boards in Franklin County about writing a letter, a joint letter. I think that I don't know that the boards will be able to come to consensus on a joint letter. I think there were some things that were in common and other things that were not in common at that meeting. So it'll be something that I will, if we need to call a special meeting to weigh in on a joint letter, we can. Yeah, no, it's okay. I meant to call you about that piece. So I don't know where it'll go from here, but I do know that it was a good opportunity. It opened up some dialogue with the local legislators, and they were very clear that they don't know what to do from here. So I hope if nothing else happens from that they will see advocates, professionals that were in the room that day that they can reach out to and ask about our context, because they definitely listened attentively to all of the stories. And I just want to say Sarah nailed it. She spoke on behalf of the ER board and did a really fantastic job.
Sure. I nailed it.
You did nail
I
it.
survived.
Did a great
I
job.
survived.
Did a great job. It didn't have to go first.
No, that was nice, thank you. Thank you for making that.
Yeah, you're welcome. So as I said, it's the first day of the new biennium of the legislative session. It's year 2 of their biennium. So people will also during this legislative session be thinking about whether or not they're running for their roles in the next election. So politically, that also weighs on people in this part of in year 2. So there are a lot of people that know that these are very tough decisions, and some of their decisions could and will likely impact their bids for re-election. So that'll play in some way. this year. So I linked in there an article from the St. Albans Messenger that just was a summary of what happened at the meeting. And Secretary Saunders did an interview with, I believe that one was V.T. Digger, and she was just talking in general terms about Act 73 education reform. So I put that in there also for you to just be informed about, because it's good to kind of be doing some of those check-ins along the way. Anybody have any questions? I probably won't have answers if you do, but
The slideshow will be linked in Lynn's part of the agenda soon.
all right. Thank you.
Okay, principals reports. Kelly?
Everything is informational.
It's all informational.
Jen?
All information.
Anthony?
It's all informational. Should I be the one to highlight
Well,
something?
I kind of was hoping everybody was gonna highlight something because I'm gonna maybe reset if we could. If you could do your highlight, and we're gonna come back to all of you. Because this is our opportunity for our community to hear from us. They don't get the benefit of your reports, so it'd be good. You can kick us off.
The one thing I wanted to highlight was, so we're trying to really identify students and work with our 9th and 10th graders around proficiency, around the indicators. And so we've been working really closely with Gabrielle Lumbra, the curriculum director. And so she's going to be working, I'm excited about this because we're going to pilot what they're calling a sprint. So Max Segala is our ELO teacher, our extended learning opportunities teacher, and he's got a lot of experience in project-based learning and developing different opportunities for kids kind of out, bring their learning outside of school and earn credits and indicators that way. And so they're gonna do a 6-week sprint with a pilot group of students who have a low number of indicators right now, developing a project for them to demonstrate proficiency around some of the indicators. And so that'll be coming up in the 2nd semester, and they're going to be using that focused instructional time a couple days a week to be working directly with those students. And so I'm hoping for some success with that, and these kids are given some opportunities to take a deeper look at some of the indicators and reach proficiency around it.
So they're already on their way.
Yeah.
On many of those
Yeah.
indicators,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
It's sprinting over.
Yeah, they're working towards it, and they're close in some areas, and so these are a group of students who they think they can get to proficiency working directly with them over this 6-week period of time.
And I'll piggyback on that. Today, we had a staff meeting, and we're piloting a program where we're looking at our teachers today, looked at all their data, and they looked for students that are almost meeting the standard, that are just about there, and they all chose about 4 students that they thought fit this criteria, and then they're going to work with a resource we have that's called Exact Path for reading and math, and we're doing a 6-week pilot period, and to see if we can move them to the next level, so which would be meeting the standard.
So I highlighted one of the things in my report that was one of the pictures that Courtney had on the slide. We have students who were 5th grade students, can be a tricky year. You have kids who can be pretty self-conscious and other kids who are, pretty dramatic. And they helped write this play and then perform this play, and it was really part of the literacy unit that was being taught, but it was really led by this paraeducator who does have some experience writing and was pretty excited about doing that. The students were really excited about doing that as well, and so they put on a couple of different productions for people for different classes in the school, and are in the process of planning their next one. The other thing I would say is that along with a couple of my other teachers, 2 other teachers in my building, we're working through an AI course for this whole year, and so we have been bringing back information to staff. It's definitely generating questions around use with students and how to navigate that. Probably fewer questions with younger students at this point than what you would see at middle school, high school, but still certainly, how are we going to begin to navigate that with students? And then for even adults who were pretty gun shy about even using AI and then until it was really pointed out, you are using it, you're using it every day, you've been using it for years, so it's been interesting.
So, I'm proud of many things at Richford Junior Senior High School, but one of the things I'm most proud about is our culture. We have a very, very strong culture. You can almost feel it when you walk in the building. And so we do a lot of things to build culture. And we did something new this year over the holidays. It was a lot of fun. The UA team came up with it, where we wrote down all the names of every adult in the building. And then each community time or advisory drew a name of the adult, and they had to draw the adult, and they're posted on our front windows as you walk in. So if you come in, you'll see them. And there was going to be a competition where you had to try to identify who the people were. Well, they were great. I mean, it was so obvious who many of them were. They were great likenesses. Like Zach Greenwood looks exactly like Zach Greenwood, and Adam Barkley looks just like Adam Barkley. And so it turned into this really fun event. Everybody really got into it, and it really was brought us together. And then they were supposed to have this award for the team who did the best. Well, most people the team did great. They had to, as an advisory, draw it together, and different people had to contribute to it. But it was a lot of fun over the holiday. It's awesome.
Love it.
Okay. Nothing from Cold Hollow. We'll go right on to board business. Next meeting is for February 17th at Richford. And any other agenda items?
I would just want to remind people that petitions for board seats are due on January 26th. They can either go to Billy Joe Draper, who's the Enosburg town clerk, or if they get them to me, I can get them to Billy Joe. I've sent out the paperwork required to the folks whose seats are up. If anyone's listening who wants to run, they can reach out to me or to Courtney or via board chair, and we can get them that paperwork. And there's 2 seats up in Richford, so definitely reach out to me on that so that you're not running for the wrong seat.
Good point.
We don't want 3 people running for one and nobody running for another.
We just have a question. For the warning, are we confirming February 25th at 6:30 at Richford High School for the official meeting? Is that time good with everybody? Okay. Morgan and I. Okay.
I don't think Akua can be here that late either.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. We just wanted to make sure about the time. We don't need a quorum for it.
Okay.
Okay.
It's an informational, so you don't need a quorum. We just wanted to make sure the time was good. Okay.
Yeah.
If there's nothing else, so entertain a motion to adjourn.
No motion.
Beth made a motion. Cool.
Aye.
Rachel?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
I'm an aye. Thank you.